with Dak Prescott and this offense, it's amazing that they scored it all. Well, good Monday morning, friends. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. So let's get open for business here, and let's wake up the football gods. Wake up there, guys. Are you ready? Are you ready? You know, it's hard to believe that there's a Super Bowl next Sunday. Is it crazy, or are the Cowboys covered more right now than the two teams combined? I mean, have we heard about how Pat Mahomes' ankle is and everything? Anything like that? Have we heard anything about the Eagles, if they win the Super Bowl, or excuse me, if they lose the Super Bowl, that they might be considered chokers, or that they were overrated because they only played Brock Purdy and Josh Johnson and Daniel Jones on their way to the Super Bowl? Not exactly having to face the Tom Brady's or the Aaron Rodgers that maybe they had an easy path. No. We talking about Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys, and should Dak Prescott be the quarterback of America's team? Isn't that crazy to you guys? Now, I'm going to say it is a miracle. I really honestly don't know, with Dak Prescott and this offense, how are they scoring 32 points a game? Everybody's out there, we need to replace the quarterback because, you know, he sucks. He had all these interceptions. Now, I have said with my eyes going through, as I've sat here week after week after week with my man DMV and E2 Blue and Dem Boys Kicks and, you know, and things, looking for my eye test, that it looks like every single play, every pass play, without a doubt, that we've got guys draped all over our receivers. That I've said, it doesn't seem like our receivers get open where you see guys wide open. You know, when you see, you know, like George Kittle with that catch that he was able to tip, and finally bring in, it seemed like there was a lot of real estate around him to allow that. Because when the Cowboy players, it seems like when they tip the ball, there's always somebody right there. And I would always say our guys don't separate, with the exception of CeeDee Lamb, that we always have seemingly people around the receivers. Now, people will say, well, you know, Dak Prescott, well, he missed the open man and things, or he's holding on to the ball too long, and so on. And I will say, you know, because I remember there was a Chargers fan who is trying to make shit shine. And that was with Kellen Moore, to tell us that, you know, Kellen Moore is not the problem. It's only Dak Prescott. Because we always point out, you say, well, you know, he missed a guy over here wide open, which is conceivable. And I guarantee if you end up going through film on every single quarterback, there's always going to be another read that might have been a better read, where we, looking from above, slowing the play down, can say, oh, yeah, that guy over there is open. But you've got literally 2 seconds to get the ball and look at a multitude of places, as well as make sure that you feel the pressure from what's coming at you. I know what the Dak Prescott hater is going to say, you're just making excuses. Well, this is a reality in football. It's not like the quarterback is us sitting at home, watching the television screen, slowing it down, looking and surveying and all. You got less than 2 seconds, bro. 2 seconds to get rid of that damn ball. That's it. That's it. And there are times that even Tom Terrific Brady missed it. But be that as it may, I saw on Instagram, somebody shared this with me, Connor Lively, Connor NFL draft, using next generation stats. And, I need to make account for Pro Football Focus. Skip, the boys at Pro Football Focus, they watch a lot of football. And using the numbers because we can go through and we can make some assumptions. Because it's cause and effect. A lot of people say, Dak is just a garbage-ass quarterback. He sucks. He's throwing these interceptions. Okay. I'm in the solution business. Now, I'm hoping that the change of offense helps because another problem with our offense is we don't get yards after contact, yak, because of the play design. We have so many comeback and stop routes and things like that and curls that get your momentum going the wrong way. So basically, where the ball gets is what you're going to get, as opposed to hitting a guy in stride where he's going on a slant and he's got momentum going down the field where guys are chasing him, which is harder to get them. But that's another thing in itself, because if you can add 2 or 3 yards onto, a couple of pass plays, all of a sudden that really adds up. That makes it easier for first downs, or it's first downs. But here's the thing that I get at least some validation to. And you have to put this into the equation of the problems for Dak. Noah Brown, and don't get me wrong, Noah Brown should be a special teams guy. He should be your 4th or 5th wide receiver, a guy, when you're going 4 and 5 wide out, that should be there. But if he's your number 2 pass catcher, if that's the best you've got, then you got problems. Because here's what Next Gen Stats shows you. Noah Brown finished the season with 2.3 yards of average separation. So that means when the ball's being passed to him, every time there's somebody within 2.3 yards of him. So maybe sometimes it's, 3.5. Sometimes it's 1.5. It averages out to 2 and 2.3. It's not really good. Where that ranks in the NFL is tied for 117 out of 121. To put that in perspective, there's 32 teams. So you take the starters, your first wide receivers, that's 32. You take your number 2 wide receivers, that's 64. You take all of the number 3 wide receivers, that's 96. You now take the 4th wide receiver on rosters. Take everybody's 1, 2, and 3 receivers. And I'm not just talking about Kansas City and the Eagles that have outstanding ones. I'm talking about ones like the Bears. Talking about all of the teams that are ass. Take out their top 3 wide receivers and get to the 4th. And get to the bottom of the 4th, and that's where Noah Brown fits in separation. Now, the good news is Michael Gallup was better. 1/10 of a yard better at 2.4, which is 116 out of 121. So when we start looking at the Dallas Cowboys receivers being open, and understand, you've got to be able to throw the ball into tight windows. That has to happen. But not every play. Sometimes you need some real easy ones, some layups, some space to throw the football. Because here's the difference in throwing interceptions. If I have somebody around the ball, excuse me, if I have somebody around the ball, a cornerback, they might be able to step in there and take the ball away. They may be able to, if the ball's tipped up, because they're right there, get the interception. I would dare say that separation would have a direct correlation to interceptions. Can we at least agree on that one? If the Cowboys were to say have, Michael Gallup and, Noah Brown in like the top half, like the top 50 in space to throw in. I'd say, okay, yeah, okay. Then the problem is Dak. He's dealing with everything that everybody else is dealing with. But if you're telling me that your second and third wide receiver are on the very bottom of separation, you don't have high percentage passes that you're going to be able to make. You're going to have to throw into tight windows. You're going to have to risk the biscuit. You are going to have more interceptions. That's just a fact. Now, haters will say no. But as this Connor put it, separation isn't everything. Okay, because it's not everything. It's a factor. But here's the other part of it that you look at and say, my God, we were awful. But they also ranked at 103 and 112 in catch percentage, which also is direct correlation to not being open, because you've got guys where they're in your vision, they're in your hip pocket, their hands are in front of the ball. That all makes sense. So if we can look and say that separation has a direct correlation to catch percentage, we can also look at that and say having guys with people on them also will go to interceptions. Now, the amazing thing on this is it is a miracle. It is a miracle that somehow the Dallas Cowboys were averaging 32 points a game when Dak came back. I honestly don't know how the Cowboys did that. If Dak Prescott is as bad as everybody says that he is, that he is the only problem for the Cowboys, and you look at and say two of your receivers, your second and third receiver, are some of the worst in the NFL as far as production-wise, how you can say it's just the quarterback. Now, mind you, everybody needs to improve. If everybody improves by 1 or 2%, all of a sudden you're a Super Bowl team. Everybody needs to improve. Not saying that Dak Prescott doesn't. But if that is what you have as wide receivers, and that's the best we got to do better. Here's the crazy thing right here, okay? I want you to just listen to me for 1 second. This will tell you all you need to know. Just think about it. Just listen here, haters. Just listen for a second. Cedric Wilson, who was our number 3 wide receiver the year before. Okay? If Cedric Wilson had been on this team this year with the same numbers that he had the year before, which was 600 yards, Cedric Wilson would have been our second leading pass receiver. Right? Now let me blow your mind. Let me blow your mind here. If Cedric Wilson was on this team this year, he would have been our second leading pass receiver. On Miami, he can't get on the field. He could not get on the field in Miami. If he had been here, he'd been our number 2 pass catcher. Clearly, we have a problem at wide receiver. And changing the quarterback alone ain't going to fix that. Now, here's where the good hope, the hope is. The hope is because ACLs are something that take time to heal. And even though in football they say, oh, yeah, he can go. Going and going full speed are two different things. And clearly, Michael Gallup could not go full speed. That's not to say that having this off season, now that he's not, literally working and playing games and everything else, that he now has time to work on strengthening that leg even more, beginning to get trust on that knee. And I've had a torn ACL before, okay? Actually, I still don't have an ACL on my left leg, because I'm going to tell you what happens when you have an injury like that is you are still favoring it a little bit. You are afraid to really go all out. You are thinking about that injury. And when you get just a little slight movement in it, you automatically fear the worst. You don't have full trust in going out like you do before. It takes time to build that up. And I don't think that Michael Gallup, who, had the surgery, is trying to work to get back on the field, working on the bands and everything else, had enough time to get that. So Michael Gallup may improve in that. And I look and say, he won't get worse. He'll be better. But Noah Brown, you may have reached the ceiling for Noah Brown. And if we're looking and saying we're all in for Vegas to win a Super Bowl, you got to do better than this. You've got to do better than this. Now, a couple of things that can help us will be using the West Coast offense. Okay, we got Brian Schottenheimer as the offensive coordinator. Okay, we got Mike Solaris, who was his offensive line coach when he was with Seattle. Okay, and them running the West Coast offense, similar to what Mike McCarthy was running in Green Bay. And you have to look at this from the standpoint of a couple amazing things actually happened with the Seattle Seahawks. I was surprised looking at the numbers. Brian Schottenheimer was the offensive coordinator 2018, 2019, and 2020. If you don't believe me, look it up. Look it up. Russell Wilson, yards per completion went up. His touchdowns, 40, 35, 31. His interceptions, 11, 7, and 5. He was more efficient passing the football. More efficient passing the football. The other part of this, which surprised me, was their run per average per play went from 4 to 4.7, 4.8 to 4.9. So not only was Russell Wilson more efficient passing the football, they got better at running the football. And that is the key, because you need to be balanced. And I look at, it's a travesty that the 2014 team did not make the Super Bowl. That team was truly balanced, having DeMarco Murray rushing for 1,800 yards. The amazing thing was Tony Romo's yards for the season was like 3,800. He had 49. He had like 1,200 yards passing more. But his touchdown passes went up, his interceptions went down, because you're not having teams that are able to sell out versus the pass. And herein lies the problem for the Cowboys when we get to the playoffs. For whatever reason, against San Francisco the year before, we were only able to rush the ball 77 yards, and Dak was like 27 of that. This time, Tony Pollard gets injured, same scenario. You can't run the football. You're one-dimensional. And you have wide receivers that can't get separation. Going to throw interceptions. Now, that's not to say, and this also go into it, a lot of times we'll look at a pass and we'll see nobody in the area where the quarterback's throwing the football. And this is where Kellen Moore's offense has multiple reads. And if the quarterback and wide receiver aren't on the same page, your quarterback is actually throwing to a spot. I'm throwing to the spot. This is where you're supposed to be. If there's a misread in communication, that's where you have these crazy passes. And again, being Joe the fan that's watching the play, not knowing what's called and what they're actually trying to do, because we're not actually in with the Cowboys organization in the film room or with the offensive coordinator, you can look at that and say, oh, what was he thinking? Was he on crack, whack, or what? I mean, what was the problem here? And that's in lies part of the problem with the offense. We'll see what Mike McCarthy, Brian Schottenheimer, Mike Solaris get together on here as we evolve this offense. It'll be interesting to see who's going to be the quarterback coach and who is going to be the running back coach. But let's listen in to Get Up their thoughts on the future for Dak Prescott. I know a lot of people are saying, don't extend him, just get rid of him. But in reality is, you could do that, but you're basically going to have to take away more players because of the contract. So it's a cause and effect type of thing. You can restructure Dak Prescott's contract or give him an extension, get money to get more players around him, thus like guys that can get, separation and have a better result. Or you can say, we'll go ahead and keep Dak at that. We'll get rid of some more of the players that we have now and we'll be worse. But what do I know?
And so, Dan Graziano, as a reporter, this is something that I'm sure you would agree with. It's something that I've learned over the many years. In sports, pay no attention to what they say. Just look at what they do.
Oh, yeah.
So when he says Dak's going to be our guy going forward into the future, what they do potentially in the next few weeks will go a long way towards determining if they really mean that.
It's like all the president's men. Follow the money, right? That's it. So he's signed for 2 more years. 1 year has guaranteed money this year. The next year does not. His cap number this year is $49 million, 49.1. So they would like to lower that. There are 2 ways they can do it. One is to give them an extension that would lower it and lock him in for several years. The other would be to restructure it. They have 2 void years in the contract after 2024. You could dump some of the money into that, just sort of delay the cap hit. If they did that, that would tell you they're a little uncertain, right? They want to keep him for the next couple of years, but maybe not commit long term. If they extend him, they're committing long term. If they do nothing and they carry that $49 million cap hit this year, then you'll know he's playing for his job.
And so that is the circumstance in Dallas. Damian Woody, I'm making your dream come true. I'm making you the owner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Ooh,
as of right now, you're the one making this decision. Are you doing what Dan's talking, extension, pay him, Dak's my guy going forward for the next 5-6 years, no questions asked, are you doing it?
After the worst season that he's had in his pro career, I'm not doing that right now. We got the head coach who's now the play caller. He got rid of the offensive coordinator. The quarterback's coming off the worst year he's had in his pro career. Why am I doing an extension right now? Okay, I'm not doing that right now.
I'm not doing that right now.
How this whole thing is going to come about?
We're having a little trouble with your microphone there, D. Wood, so we're going to have someone come out. We're going to get you a microphone here to help you out. Bart, the same question to you. Do you believe the Cowboys should be viewing this as, we've got our guy into the future, no ifs, ands, or buts?
They're going to do the extension because they need the salary cap relief. Because what they realize is that Dak is a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback, right? And so now you can have this open conversation with Dak Prescott. We try to give you the lion's share of the salary cap, and this is what you've given us. We have to give ourselves options, much like they did when they realized that Dak needed help because he wasn't a guy that was Burrow or Mahomes, right? He wasn't a guy, he needs help. That's why they made the trade for Amari Cooper. I think they realized that. They're going to get some salary cap relief because I think they let Ezekiel Elliott go. They need to make a move to get another star opposite CeeDee Lamb. And now you can have this open conversation with Dak Prescott. If you're going to be a good quarterback, we have to put better pieces around you. The only way we can do that is if you give us a team-friendly deal.
And you know what I'm going to say? If I'm Dak Prescott, if you somehow put me in a position where I could become open to talking to other teams, someone's going to offer me a hell of a lot more money than you are. So why is he taking less than that?
It's not less. He's going to get more money, but his annual value, the same way they gave him extension and we thought, oh, Dak's locked down.
Yeah.
Now he's only locked down. We realize it's basically a 2-year deal. Listen, the devil's in the details. There's always ways. Don't pay attention to the end number of somebody's money. Pay attention to the guarantees.
I'm saying in a world in which I've got people openly speculating that Daniel Jones is going to get a contract that's worth between $40 and $50 million a year. If I'm Dak Prescott, Dan Graziano, why would I take anything less than that?
Right, and he wouldn't. And if you remember, which I'm sure you do, when we used to talk about the Dak Prescott extension before it was done.
Right.
The issue was he wanted the shorter deal and they wanted the longer deal, right? Because that helps them allocate salary cap money.
Yes.
This is why he wanted it. He's in a good position right now. They either have to extend him or he gets to look at possibly being a free agent sometime soon. So they did this deal and they structured it the way they did with an eye toward eventually extending him this offseason. So they effectively got their longer-term deal, and he got some degree of cost say in how much he's going to make.
But he didn't really close the deal. He didn't play at an elite level.
Well,
right. And the reality is, Mike McCarthy calling the plays, he's run out of people to fire. And it's funny that Dan Quinn quickly shut down head coaching rumors because he sees an opportunity that if Mike McCarthy fails next year, he's going to be the next head coach of the Cowboys, and he may want to decide to start over and get his own quarterback.
He may, but the reason, like you say, Dak didn't close the deal. This is why he did a good deal, right? Like he's still in a position
he
of strength,
leverage,
even though he didn't play to the absolute top.
Here's the bottom line, D. Wood, because it's one thing to say Dak didn't play great, which he clearly did not. It's another thing to say I can name 10 guys I'd rather have as my quarterback in the NFL. I'm not sure that it's easy to do that, D. Wood.
Dak still has all the leverage.
All of it.
No.
Yeah. Oh boy, if Dak hits his free agency right now, teams would fall over themselves to go get Dak Prescott.
They're going to give him $50 million.
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Close to
Yes.
it.
So
If Daniel Jones is going to get about 40, you don't think Dak will get 50?
Okay, listen.
In this market?
Yeah.
Look what Dallas did with them. What did they do? What did they accomplish? Absolutely nothing. And at some point, you got to say, and you're looking at a guy like Brock Purdy, that almost, probably barring injury, could have been representing the NFC in the Super Bowl.
I'm not saying.
Teams
don't look at it like that.
They don't
the
look at
Niners,
it.
Okay.
Purdy was the Niners' third choice of quarterback this year. They ended up having to start. They got
I understand
lucky.
that, but it's some teams that have a philosophy that you can win with
Or
a
players.
quarterback on a rookie deal and get better players around him, a la Jalen Hurts,
right?
A la Brock Purdy, right? You can do that, and some people believe that if you put all your money into a quarterback, your degree for difficulty and mistakes are nil because now you don't have the depth.
Okay.
So we see, like you heard Michael Parsons, hey, everybody that left in the playoffs got guys on rookie deals.
Right.
I understand that you can do a lot worse than Dak Prescott, but you also can decide to build behind a defense, a run game, and a lot of good players because now you can depend on having depth.
Go ahead, D. Wood.
I'm going to say this. The reality is, I would say
Why is that
two-thirds.
mic so little in your hand?
Well, that's just what it is. Now, I would say the reality is like 2/3 of the league don't have a quarterback.
Right.
And so, at the end of the day,
And we're just talking about just throwing Mars away.
Okay.
It's all about leverage.
Okay.
It's supply and demand.
Get stuck with Kyler Murray. Get stuck with a deal like that.
There's not many quarterbacks out here.
If he can't scare the Cowboys into extending him, right, then he can scare somebody else.
Exactly.
Right, but I get nervous, right? The cautionary tale is looking at a guy like Russell Wilson, right?
Yes.
When you start to slow down and you start to lose your ability to make people miss in the pocket, which Dak is a guy that's injured. He's getting older.
Right.
When that happens, you get stuck with one of those deals, you are handicapping your organization.
But very few teams are going to be willing to do what Seattle did and say, we don't think this is a $50 million a year player, so we're going to get rid of him and try something else at lower cost. That may be what they should do, but very few teams are operating.
You're right. And if you really step back and think about it, look how well it worked out for Seattle. I mean, Seattle wound up in the playoffs while Denver was busy
look how much
firing
salary
the
cap
coach
space
before
they
the
have.
season
Right.
ended. Right. And they've
Now
got
they
the
gotta
draft
sign
picks,
Geno.
and they've got everything else.
Right.
Look, that's the reality of the situation. The bottom line of it is this. It's pretty simple. And look, it's funny what you say. Do you remember when we used to talk about Dak? Is that we don't talk about Dak every single day because it's a fascinating situation. I think it is reasonable to say that as of this moment, both the coach and the quarterback, regardless of what the owners are saying, the coach and the quarterback will most likely both be playing for their jobs or working for their jobs this season in Dallas.
Right, so you're saying, right, Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott. Mike McCarthy gets fired next year, you're going to be looking for a new head coach.
Right.
Who's to say? So you're saying that head coach doesn't have an option to get his quarterback? You have to structure it where if you decide to make a move, that coach has an option. The reason why I believe that D'Amico Ryan didn't take that job is because he didn't want to get handicapped and stuck with Russell Wilson. And if you look at their body types, you look at their game, it's eerily similar that can be Dak Prescott's future.
How many people have we seen get contracts like? How in the hell did he get that type of contract? It's not because they've got this. They've earned it as far as their play is concerned. It's all about when they hit the market and all that type of stuff. Now, as far as Dak Prescott is concerned, listen, the reason Dak Prescott went with that type of structure is because he wanted another bite of the apple quick. So why would Dak Prescott really be accommodating to the Dallas Cowboys, even after this year when the whole purpose of him doing that first contract was, I want to come right back to the table and sign another big deal.
Yeah, the only reason he could consider it, and this is not specific to Dak, except for the part of it in which he is a Cowboy, is that I've frequently said quarterbacks, exclusively quarterbacks, can look at taking a little bit less money as an investment in themselves long term. Because Tom Brady, who did that, became one of the great the greatest legend in the history of the sport by winning all the time. And if you win this Super Bowl as the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys,
then you back.
Ask Roger Staubach how that works. Ask Troy Aikman how that works.
You don't even have to win the Super Bowl. Ask Tony Romo how that works. I mean, think about, like, if you spend your career as the quarterback of the Cowboys, you're set for life.
I think it's a happy medium in the middle.
Okay, so the debate will go on. The debate will go on whether or not Dak Prescott sucks or not. I'm just saying that let's at least, because as they put it, 2/3 of the NFL is going to be looking for quarterbacks, that Daniel Jones will get like $45, $50 million, that Geno Smith's value is at $39 million. And I don't see a lot of options that you can say, we got a guy we can plug in right now that's going to work well with Noah Brown and Michael Gallup being the worst in separation and win. How about we try and do what the Eagles have done? And as we talk about, this is what's amazing to me, as we talk about these great teams, that Brock Purdy with San Francisco, Brock Purdy ain't throwing to Noah Brown and Michael Gallup. Jalen Hurts, he ain't throwing to them either. Joe Burrow, they got playmakers galore. Let's be real here, people. It's not rocket science. You win with the talent that you have on the field. And clearly, we did not have enough. All right, good people. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Shout out to everybody who's been joining my cooking channel. Today, one weekend, 4.5 pounds down. We're going to keep on trying to get ourselves together, and I appreciate each and every one of you guys that are there. We may start doing some Zoom calls in there so we can, really get together and talk about what's going on and so forth on what's working for you, what's not working for you, and so on, because ultimately we'll be stronger together than apart. Take it easy. Peace.
Our folks here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the show for the Sports Report.
You did one hell of a job, and the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?